century not by building more bureaucracy, but by building real-time access to opportunity. We are choosing to be a nation that keeps the flame of liberty burning not by guarding it in a museum, but by taking it into the marketplace, into the classroom, and into the future. We see a world where opportunity is not limited by one zip code. We see a world where American young people can have faith that the American dream is still one to dream. In this new century, we aren't just competing for growth, we are competing for the future of civilization. The values that were articulated in the Great Declaration of 1776 aren't just historic relics. They are as relevant today to the models of artificial intelligence as they were to the agrarian society of the 18th century. These are the bedrock of our society and our resilience. This is the American spirit. It is inherently common sense. It questions, it challenges, but it is resilient. It does not accept that our best days are behind us. The American spirit acknowledges and recognizes that these values are not just American, but they are mankind's. This is the promise of America. And when we succeed together, we will see individuals succeed, we will see states succeed, we will see nations succeed, and it will all be brought together as one e pluribus unum. Let us renew our commitment to that radical idea of liberty. Let us pledge to keep this promise alive, vibrant, and focused on the future. I do believe our best days are ahead of us, because these last 250 years, as I'm reminded, were just the other day. May God bless you. May He bless each and every one of you in your pursuits to continue to rekindle, to relight, to rebuild, to make sure that the future is a future that our posterity embraces and ultimately leads. May He bless my United States of America. Here's to the next 250 years. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
Fantastic. Wow, you can see why people kept voting for that man until electoral law wouldn't allow them to vote for him any longer. We now move to the UK. And a man who has spoken about cultural confidence, possibly longer than anybody else in the UK, who is now leader of the Reform Party. I would like to welcome, in conversation with me, leader of the Reform Party, Nigel Farage.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Wow.
Welcome.
Amazing.
Nigel, welcome to ARC. You were here last year as well. We are so grateful for you coming back this year. You have spoken about the importance of this cultural moment, of this civilizational moment. Why do you think we need to defend Western civilization today?
Good morning, everybody. I'm amazed to see so many people here. Don't you know there's a red warning? We're in the red zone. The schools have all closed. No one's going to work. There's a danger to life. I'm astonished you're all here.
The ARC crowd of a resilient bunch of people.
Of course they are. I think that what we developed in Western civilization, the basis of which, of course, is Judeo-Christian culture. That's undeniable at every level. And the way in which we developed it over centuries to become democratic, where we had the right to choose our leaders, to fire our leaders. I think in terms of the life of ordinary people has produced the best civilization that humanity has managed in the 2 million years it's been around, and it seems to me that's something worth fighting for and worth defending. And the extent to which Western leaders over the last few decades have lost sight of this almost don't care. I mean, it was interesting, wasn't it? It was Alistair Campbell in the late 90s. We don't do God.
Yeah.
Yeah? We don't do God. And the promotion of every other culture and every other religion to kids at school.
Yeah.
But no fundamental teaching of what we are and why what we've created has really been so wonderful. So yeah, no, I think we're in real danger. I think we're in real danger of absolutely losing a sense of who we are. And really, you know, when I came back into politics 2 years ago, having been out for a few years, it was really the values around family, community, country, and that's why I came back. And I think there is an appetite, there is a thirst for this, and I'm also encouraged that despite the education system, it seems to me growing numbers of Gen Z are looking for a sense of purpose, looking for a sense of why are we here, and you know, what does it mean?
And can I just pick you up on that family and community? So here in the UK, we've obviously had, you know, the murder of Henry Novak, and then the riotings in Belfast as well. Can you just talk us through, in your mind, what is required to re-establish a sense of togetherness, of social cohesion once again?
Well, we're living in two-tier Britain. We've got two-tier policing, we've got two-tier justice, and we've had two-tier care, but not for very much longer. Just look at Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. This incident, this appalling incident happened in Southampton. Just look at the Hampshire and Isle of Wight race action plan put in place, whereby the most serious thing a police officer can be told is that somebody has committed an act of racial abuse, whether it's true or not. And if the officer doesn't take that accusation seriously, they will be suspended immediately. So we're not policing each group with colour blindness. We're not treating everybody the same. And the police chiefs themselves admit we now police different communities and different groups in different ways. This is a road to disaster.
And what would you be doing to address that and to change that?
I would say that we have to treat everybody exactly the same, whether you're a police officer on the street, whether you're a university admissions secretary, everybody must be treated the same. We have to get back to some sense that we're a meritocracy, because if we don't, the level of division, and you saw those, I mean, you mentioned the riots, but if that sense of division grows deeper, we're headed for very, very troubled times.
Yeah. And whilst we're talking about our social fabric, we're seeing across nations a declining in our demographic trends, and also a declining in the resilience of families. Like, you have right at the center of your mantra about reform, family, community, nation. So when you're looking at family, what is your approach to strengthening families and enabling them to thrive and flourish?
Well, the tax system for years has actually counted against people getting married. It's actually encouraged people. Now, look, I mean, I may not be the best advocate for marriage myself. Track record's a bit checkered, but I still think it's a good thing. And there's no doubt, I mean, all the evidence is there that children that are brought up in a married household have better life chances than those that don't. It's just as simple as that. So the tax system has penalised people getting married. So I think there are incentives, there are things that can be done. And I also think, I mean, I've struggled with this politically myself this year, but I actually think that working couples who've got young families need some help, some incentive through the tax system to make their lives a little bit easier. And I really do.
So we have 1,000 young leaders here at this conference. And I know from speaking with many young people that it's not so much about the tax system, it's actually about something in the culture. something more profound, that they are reticent to go into a marriage setting, a committed relationship, or, as we were hearing yesterday, there's a kind of almost breakdown in the communication between young people, between men and women. How would you influence culture in order to see a thriving family life within the UK?
Look, it's not going to be easy.
No.
Let's be frank, we've gone so far away from the values that probably our grandparents would have been brought up with and thought normal and cherished. We've moved so far away from that. We've become, it's actually part of, I think family breakdown is pretty much the same as community breakdown. You know, when people live together in communities and they all speak the same language and they all have something in common and they all know their neighbours' Christian names and they take part in community events, you know, when that starts to break down, what happens? People become individualized, they become more selfish, they don't know the names of the next door neighbours, and I think downstream of that, a similar thing has happened within families. And I'm not pretending that government on its own can wave a magic wand, because it can't, but we can at least start to make the argument that living in a family, living in a genuine sense of community is a better way of life.
Yeah.
And let's start to unashamedly champion that. I mean, you know, I grew up in a village on the North Downs with just under 1,000 people. I mean, everyone knew everyone. And yeah, you know, if the milk wasn't taken in from an elderly next door neighbour, mum would go and knock on the door.
Yeah.
People looked out for each other,
Yeah.
you know, and the church and the shop and the pub. This is where everybody met. And you know what? I look back on that, it was a great way to live.
Yeah. And if we move from thinking about social coherence and family to thinking about an economy that enables our young people to thrive and to flourish, obviously we've had stagnant productivity in this country for years. And I'm beginning to see the United States reindustrializing. What would be your strategy for manufacturing, productivity, reindustrializing the UK?
Energy. I mean, the idiotic path. Vote blue, go green. Yeah, that was the Tories. They even wrote net zero into law, and they shouldn't be forgiven for it, in my opinion. Set us on a disastrous path. Now we've got Labour, who are even worse. And we are going to be using hydrocarbons for many decades to come. We will need them, downstream chemicals, plastics, you name it. I would want us to become at least as self-sufficient in all energy as we possibly can, and to reindustrialize. Well, not only have we got the most expensive energy prices in the world, which has destroyed traditional manufacturing, we haven't even got a hope in hell with AI, data centers. Forget it. We can't even enter the 21st century. And the only long-term solution for that, and let me tell you something, folks, it's not wind turbines, all right? I may not be quite as outspoken as President Trump on this, but it's not wind turbines. We do not need intermittent energy. We need baseload power. And you know what? If Reform win the next general election, the first phone call I'll make is to South Korea to get their nuclear engineers over here, and they will deliver nuclear energy for this country on time and at 20% of the cost that we're currently spending on Sizewell and Hinkley. We must go nuclear. We must do so in a very, very big way.
So that would be the strategy.
Yep.
for manufacturing and reindustrializing. But productivity, where are we at with our productivity, and why can we not get that moving?
Mass migration of low, unskilled labour has destroyed UK productivity. There you are, I've said it. I've said it. And it goes against everything the establishment have told us. You know, when Tony Blair opened the doors in the late 1990s, all the way through to the catastrophic Boris wave. Catastrophic. I mean, he let in 3.8 million people, only 17% of those on work permits, and only a fraction of the 17% in high-end jobs. Mass migration has destroyed productivity in the UK, but also culturally, we sort of moved to a place where we think hard work is bad, where we think success is bad, where we think making money is bad, and we have to reverse all of that. And I always tell young people, I don't know a single successful person, whether it's in sport or science or business or politics, I don't know a single successful person who hasn't worked harder than all of his or her competitors. So a complete attitudinal change towards work. And I would also say, you know, I mean, I set my first company up in 1993. I've had a series of small companies. I've done my best to employ people, try and make money. And when I went to Brussels, I realized very shortly afterwards that everything government does or thinks about or legislates is effectively for giant multinational businesses. A piece of employment legislation that is there for Unilever also applies to the corner shop down the road employing 4 people. There's a complete lack of understanding that the real economic backbone of growth, and if you want wealth to be spread, it isn't going to come from half a dozen big firms down. It's going to come from hundreds of thousands or millions of people with their small businesses thriving. So a complete change in our thinking towards small business. Our 5.7 million small businesses and sole traders feel that no one's been on their side forever, and we need a complete change of culture. And we start, for example, I mean, they're now being told, well, I'll have to do this too, they're now being told that they must put their tax returns online 4 times a year. Just one little example. And digital ID registration, amongst many other things. So if we're going to, America, the American economy, it's fascinating. You take 2008, the global financial crash, American economy, GDP, Eurozone GDP, exactly the same. Now America's doubled. It's doubled in that time. But the only criticism I would have is that a lot of what's happening in America is the upper layer progressively become even wealthier compared to those lower down. And that's why I genuinely think what happened in the 80s in the UK and America in Thatcher and Reagan's time, when we started to see entrepreneurship, we started to see small business thriving, is there was a much greater spread of wealth and a removal of so much social inequality. But it begins by making people understand that hard work's vital and that making money and success is good.
Nigel, as we come into land, I just want to ask you one question about what is happening culturally again in our nations across the West. Whilst there is much that's good that's taking place, there's also the rise of anti-Semitism happening. And I'd love to know what you, as leader of Reform, would do to reverse that anti-Semitism. The reason why I want to ask this, because our next speaker is going to come and speak about this, and I think it would be great to have your views on it first.
I've seen this at first hand. I saw it at first hand in Brussels and Strasbourg. The change in the 20 years I was there, I mean, I don't think anybody who's Jewish now lives in central Brussels. And I saw, even a decade ago, kids going into school in Strasbourg, schools with quite a high Jewish population, with armed soldiers accompanying the kids into school every morning. As I say, Brussels, literally, the only Jewish people that live in Brussels are wealthy ones that live in gated communities with private security. And you know what? I fear that London is going the same way. I genuinely fear that London is going the same way. A lot of Jewish people I've spoken to are seriously considering leaving the country.
And what would you do to reverse that?
Well,
because we want London to be a place that welcomes our Jewish community.
But again, we're back to where we started.
Yeah, exactly.
We're back to where we started. You know, if you allow people to march through the streets of London, you know, who come from the Muslim community, or an element of the Muslim community, and you allow them to chant horrific slogans in the streets of London, and yet they do nothing, and if anybody comes back and counters them, they'll probably get arrested. That is two-tier policing and justice. And we're not, and I'm afraid, the whole establishment has run away from radical Islam. We don't even try. I mean, you know, for example, the Muslim Brotherhood thrives in this country. It's the main spreader of hate and extremism in Britain today, yet it has offices all over the country. I mean, you know, sensible Arab Muslim states prescribe those organizations and treat extremist terrorists for exactly what they are. And our gutless, cowardly political class have done their best to turn a blind eye to all of it. And now we've got growing sectarianism. It's even in our politics.
Yeah.
Even in our politics. So we have to stand up and say, no, sorry, we don't operate like that here. If you don't like it, tough.
Nigel Farage, I want to say a huge thank you to you for taking time out of your incredibly busy day at the moment and coming to join us at the ARC conference. Can we say a huge thank you to Nigel Farage, leader of Reform? Thank you.
Do we both go the same way
no,
now?
I'm staying, you're going.
Lovely.
Yeah, thank you. We shift now from looking at the panoramic and the policy prescriptions to something much more personal. As I alluded to at the end of that interview with Nigel, we wanted to take a moment to look at how one person's courage can change the trajectory of people's lives for a generation. I'd like to welcome in a moment to the stage Rick Eckstein, who is going to talk about his family story. And that is going to be followed by something very special. One of the things we're trying to do this year is actually elevate some of our young leaders onto the stage as well. And there's a young woman who studied music, classical music, at Juilliard, and she was pretty horrified with what she found there. But instead of complaining about it, she created a solution to it. She created the beautiful musical ensemble Exalt. So we're going to be going from Rick Eckstein to Bethlehem Hagdu and her beautiful ensemble Exalt.